welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and today I'm going over some 5-star predictions. So this year, instead of making an annual 5-star prediction list, I've been making quarterly ones, which is far more manageable. I found that last year I would forget about the books that were in my 5-star prediction until like the year was almost over. So instead, predicting just a couple of books each quarter, either like 3 or maybe 4, has been way more manageable for me to actually get to those books. So these are the books that I thought would be 5 stars in the second quarter of 2023, but then I'm also going to predict the books that I think / hope will be 5 stars in the third quarter. I think I'm gonna go kind of like in order of where they landed star rating, because spoiler alert, they were not all 5 stars. So let's start out with the lowest book, I guess, and that would be Don Quixote. I was really hoping this would be 5 stars. I've heard some people say that it was absolutely hilarious and so wonderful, and they loved it so much, like a new favorite kind of a book. And unfortunately, I did not feel that way. I actually don't have a star rating for this one. I got probably about 40% of the way through, and it is currently a soft DNF. So that means that I do hope to get back to this sometime, and I do want to give it another try just because it is an iconic work of literature. But I had a lot of other commitments, a lot of other books I really, really wanted to be reading, and this book was not doing it for me. I really liked the prologue, I liked the beginning of the book, and then his antics just started feeling incredibly repetitive. They were following the same formula over and over again. We would take massive breaks from the story for someone to like read a novel or tell a story that didn't really have anything to do with Don Quixote's quests at the time, or at least it didn't feel all that related to me. But I do want to give this another try. But unfortunately, right now, I just didn't love it like I was hoping to. Like, it was just like okay. And there were so many other books that I really wanted to get to that this one is like so far on the back burner that I think it might be on a different stove at this point. Next up, we have another book that it pains me. Pains me, but Kill Many of the Orchard by L.M. Montgomery. And the reason that this pains me, well, there's 2 reasons. First of all, I love L.M. Montgomery. I love her writing. I think it's beautiful. I think it's wonderful. But also, this was the group read for Montgomery, which you know if you participated in Montgomery. You probably saw that we had a live show discussion for this and all that kind of stuff. And this is my least favorite Montgomery book that I've read so far. Is it terrible? No, it's not, but it's just kind of meh, so it's a 3-star for me. Still loved the nature writing, but felt like the character development was practically non-existent, and there were just elements to the relationship, elements to the story, and some kind of like racist content as well, which I haven't typically seen in most L.M. Montgomery books. But I wasn't a huge fan. Would I read this again? Probably. It's super short. It's not a terrible book, but I was really hoping it would wow me like some of her others. Last 2 books on here are indeed 5 stars. So we'll talk about them. Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 2 of the Stormlight Archive, which I started last summer, and I didn't get to book 2 until like 8 or 9 months later. And I deeply regret that, because I did spend a good chunk of this book feeling really lost because I had forgotten certain side characters or certain little subplots that Sanderson's weaving in through there. I had forgotten a lot of things, unfortunately. So I do feel like this was kind of a little bit of a lower 5-star for me. I do still feel like it was masterfully done. I still really loved reading it, but it was the fault of me, and I could tell because I waited way too long, but I really did love it. So it still was 5 stars. And lastly, my favorite of my 5-star predictions, which is maybe also a little bit of a lower 5-star, but Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. This is the conclusion to the Farseer trilogy, which I started last November, and I adore it so much. I love Robin Hobb's writing. She is for sure my favorite fantasy writer. The way that she writes is just chef's kiss. It vibes with me so well. I just really love it. And this conclusion was a little bit difficult for me, to be honest, because it's very long, and a lot of people have a lot of issues with the middle chunk of this book because he is on a quest. And so that kind of brought things down for a lot of people, but that wasn't really the part where I had an issue. I kind of didn't love the beginning because a lot of the characters that I loved just they weren't there, and Fitz was just kind of on his own for a good chunk of the beginning of the book. And so that was my issue with it. I think I was having trouble connecting a little bit, I think. And it is pretty slow moving at parts. And I know some people thought that the quest part was a little bit repetitive at times. I didn't necessarily feel that way, but I did feel like it was slow moving. And I've heard a lot of people say that they didn't love the ending because they felt like all of the resolution was crammed in the last couple of chapters after such a long build. And I was fine with the ending. I mean, there were things that were left unanswered, things that were, whatever, but this is the first trilogy in like a set of series that all tie together. So I do plan to read more of it because I love it. But this, out of my 5-star predictions, I think was my favorite of the 4 that I predicted. I think I'm following a pattern here. I'm predicting 4 books again that will be 5 stars again this quarter. And 2 of them are classics and 2 of them are fantasy, just like last quarter, which is really funny. I'm finding that pretty much all the fantasy books that I'm predicting will be 5 stars have been so far. So I feel like I'm coming into my fantasy era of like really loving like high fantasy with like hard magic systems and things. And I never thought that would be me. I was kind of intimidated by that kind of stuff. So it's really fun. So let's just go through the books that I have. The first one, okay. Maybe this one shouldn't be there because it's a reread, but I read it in high school and I remember this many things about it, like even including the main character's name and all of that kind of stuff. That's Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I am reading this for Jane Austen July, and I do anticipate loving it. This is a lot of people's least favorite Austen, and they really dislike it because they feel like the main character, Fanny Price, is just a weak pushover. Honestly, my least favorite Austens are still better than a lot of other people's books. So I think that I'll still enjoy it. So far, my least favorite Austen is Emma, even though it's hilarious. I gave it 4 stars. So I don't know where Mansfield Park is going to rank here. I'm fairly certain it's going to be 4 stars. And I hope it's not cheating to include it as a 5-star prediction. But until I started reading it, which at the time of filming this, I have read a little bit. I've read just a couple of chapters, but I made this list before I started reading it, so it's not cheating. Anyway, I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even know the main character's name. So I feel like it's not cheating to include a reread that I literally read like over 15 years ago and I remember nothing about at all. The other classic on this list is a bit of a wild card because there's a really good chance that I won't love it as much as I hope. That's The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, and this is actually on my Classics TBR for the year. I'm reading it in September with a couple of people and really looking forward to it. This is an Italian classic, and the back says, it's actually historical fiction as well. The back says the year is 1327. The place is a wealthy Franciscan abbey, and the crimes committed here are beyond the wildest imaginings. It will be the task of English brother William of Baskerville to decipher secret symbols and dig into the eerie labyrinth of abbey life to unravel the mystery. His tools: logic, intelligence, wit, and a ferocious curiosity. His enemy, a murderer with the awesome features of the Antichrist. So this sounds fabulous. I do know that my friend Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and Victoria from A Musical Bookworm, they read this book together last fall. And Christy said it's really slow moving with lots of philosophical conversations and stuff like that. So I know it's not going to be quite as fast paced as the back makes it out to be, but I love slow philosophical conversations. Have you met my friend Fyodor Dostoevsky? Big fan. So I think that that's actually going to work in the book's favor for me. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. I really hope I love it. Moving on to the fantasies. So one of these I'm planning to read in August and the other in September. So the one I plan to read in August is The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. I'm actually using this for Summer Book Bingo also. I'm going to use it for my standalone fantasy square. And my friend Dia from Novel Idea sent this book to me when we did the BookTube buddy tag I'll link that in case you didn't see it. It was lots of fun, and we just like interviewed each other on each other's channels, and it was really fun, and we sent each other some book mail. And this is one of the books that she sent me, and it kind of checks the boxes for me for a lot of bookish buzzwords that I absolutely love. Hilariously enough, I just recorded a video for my patrons that was all bookish buzzwords and things that I love, and this book like checks so many of those. So I'm really looking forward to it. Don't know very much about it. I think Dia did talk about it some in that video, but I just, you know, kind of my mind's a sieve and it just went through. I do know that it is a more kind of like slow-paced fantasy with lots of political elements, and that is something that I absolutely love in fantasy. I think it's about a guy who is like, yeah, it says he's a half goblin. The youngest son of the emperor has lived his entire life in exile, far from the imperial court and the intrigue that surrounds it. But then his father and 3 half-brothers, who are heirs to the throne ahead of him, die together in an airship crash. Maya is summoned to take his father's throne. There's more than that, but I don't want to read too much and know too much going into it, but I'm super excited to read this one. Every single time that Dia has suggested a book to me, I've always loved it. I don't think I've ever ranked one lower than 4 stars, but I think a lot of them have been new favorites. She has like absolutely knocked it out of the park with every single recommendation she has given me, so really looking forward to giving this one a try. It's not one that I've ever heard of before. So for my second quarter predictions, I definitely had some chunkers on there, and that's no exception for this one because Mansfield Park is over 500 pages. I know Name of the Rose is pretty long also, over 600 pages. And then The Goblin Emperor looks like it's over 400 pages, so that's my shortest one. But my longest one is actually my last prediction here, and that's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I'm reading this in September with friends, and I don't know a ton about it, honestly. The thing that I've heard that I love from my friend Christy is she's told me it has like a very Dickensian feel to it, but there's magic. So how could that go wrong? I haven't read any Susanna Clarke yet. I actually own this one and Piranesi, or is it Piranesi? I think it's Piranesi. I am really looking forward to reading this one. Out of all the books on this list, this might be the one I'm most excited about, even though it's the one I probably know the least about. So there are my predictions for the third quarter. I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Have you read the books that I am intending to read? What were your ratings? Did you enjoy them? And then also, you can let me know if you have any thoughts about the books that I read in the second quarter as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me. And I will see you again next time.